This is John Dupuy, and this is, I don't know, our fourth or fifth, I'm beginning to lose count, episode of Season 1 of Spirit Tech Talks. And we have a really, really cool show or a cool conversation here. And I talked with these brilliant people I'll introduce in a second about 6 months ago, and my mind is still kind of quasi-blown from that experience. So let me just introduce everybody here. And, well, we have Chris. You want to raise your hand? Chris Larcombe, did I say that correct?
It's Larcombe, but that's close enough. Yeah, that's fine.
Larcombe, okay. And Andrea
Yeah.
Harding, I think you can guess which one is Andrea. And Bret Warshawsky. And anyway, well, welcome, folks. And there's a, let me read this introductory paragraph and see if I can get through it without, like, twisting my tongue up too much, because this is some pretty heavy stuff, and then you guys can just start introducing yourselves and easing into what we're doing here. So Noomap, that's what we're going to be discussing today. So Noomap is a movement community which is transcending organizations, business, and the like. We are products and service we wish to experience in the world. We have been researching and developing socio-technological innovations to bring into the marketplace. We have prototype technologies about ready to take a quantum leap into implementation as an emergent co-creation we call Synergy Hub networks. These innovations and technologies will be models, tools, structures, and processes for planetary scale self-organization and synergistic co-creation and peace, love, and sharing. These pieces include software, hardware, code, thoughtware, and more. Well, there you have it, folks. And what my takeaway from last time, just to let everybody know, and let's see, Chris, can you move over a little bit? We got only half your beautiful face. There we go. So, yeah. So my takeaway was just a new way of doing the internet and making it from kind of a linear thing that we've all been using. Has been changing our life, and it's been, you know, when we talk about spiritual technologies, it's like the internet is a context. Without that, we wouldn't even be having this conversation. And at iAwake, we're able to send our tracks to all over the world without any physical, footprints or mail or this or that, and it's just an amazing thing. And then you started reimagining this whole context that is the thing, the noosphere, if you will, that has been developing over the last 20 years, that has changed the whole story. So, hey, if you guys just want to introduce yourselves and maybe give an introduction and how you came to be a part of this, and what your part of this is. So, Chris, you want to start off? We'll go from left to right because I'm left-handed. That's a good reason as any.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So I'm 29 years old. I'm a INTP for MBTI fans, and well, my journey has been focused mainly on the sort of scientific, philosophical dimension, but I've been through a lot of inner transformation and sort of evolutionary self-development over the last few years. But my interest has always been consciousness, and I was in academia for about 6 years. I did computer science, evolutionary and adaptive systems, and then 2 years of a PhD in what is called epigenetic robotics.
Say that again, epigenetic robotics, is that what you said?
Yeah, or also cognitive robotics. It was sort of the intersection between cognitive robotics, humanoid robotics, and epigenetic robotics. But basically I was looking at AGI, artificial general intelligence, and how do we acquire such a complex repertoire of sensory motor patterns, and how do we learn to acquire a diverse repertoire of skills and behaviors? Like how does that work in the brain? It's solving that kind of from a systems level perspective. But I was working with a humanoid robot called the iCup, and it's building sort of systems, software, and then testing it out on a humanoid robot, and in order to gain insight into how our brain, how our mind works. And what ended up happening was that I had a sort of experience where I was sort of perceiving myself through my own research, and almost went a bit crazy because I was like, oh, am I just a bunch of sensory motor patterns? And I was really just sort of being very introspective and studying consciousness from the inside and the outside. And then, so I was pursuing my curiosity for sort of 6 years in academia of AI and consciousness. And then I had a spiritual experience, an awakening experience with LSD. And I went through a psychonaut phase where I was studying my consciousness from the inside out and the outside in at the same time. And around the same time, I guess I couldn't miss the fact we were in the middle of a giant global crisis. And I suffered a lot with my health before I went through any sort of consciousness expanding experiences, and I felt like the suffering of the planet, and I really felt like I was in a position to do something, or at least I felt like I really wanted to, rather than just sort of observe it. I felt like if not me, then who? If not now, then when? You know, that kind of thing. And I felt like I didn't want to be part of the system anymore, so I left my PhD and began to follow my intuition and my heart. And I had a lot of questions. All of the things I'd been taught, I felt like were either a lie or hugely inaccurate, and my whole paradigm flipped inside out, upside down. It was a very painful, challenging, lonely experience for me, several years. But I met other people who were sort of able to meet me where I was at, and we experienced co-creation and almost like a telepathic connection where, I mean, this is now part of our new social operating system, which we'll get into co-creation. But yeah, I guess in 2011 I dropped out of the system. I dropped out of culture, society, if you like, to some extent, just pursue my passion, pursue my intuition and my heart. And sort of at first I was just wanting to find the truth. I just wanted to know what was true, what was really happening. And things got quite kind of cosmic, I guess you could say, and I had to reinterpret my whole, everything really. Just ended up with a completely different worldview and set of beliefs, and now I think of things very differently. But more and more I feel connected to myself, and more I feel as though it's more of an inner journey, and it's more about what's happening inside us, because that's what seems to create the outside or apparent outside. So a lot of the work I feel I've been doing is inner work over the last few years, but it results in shifting, changing on the outside. So that's, maybe that's enough. I don't know how long you want me to go on for.
No, that's fine. I can really relate to that, and I went through a major life breakdown until I got to the breakthrough, and it just seems like some of us have to go through that, and if not a lot of us, it's pretty classic. And you might say that's what's going on planetarily for the whole human family, and all our other sentient being brothers and sisters are kind of waiting on us to get our acts together here. So.
Break down, break through.
Yeah, are you guys in the Netherlands and Holland now? Is that where we're broadcasting this from?
We're broadcasting live from Synergy Hub 1.0 in Rotterdam. 11,000 square meters of integral innovation hub, co-creation, all sorts of good stuff.
That's a lot of square meters, friends. So, Andrea, a little about yourself, and you are from Holland or the Netherlands, and okay, so what is your part in this, and how did you come to be a part of it? And then we'll discuss what it is.
Yeah, John, I'm from England originally, but I can sound a bit Dutch because I have a very strong accent. I'm from Northern England.
Oh, sorry about the Iceland thing. I know that was painful. Anyway, go ahead.
My part in is I was in industry, a long time. I was working as a consultant, and I specialised in kind of a niche area of technology. I advised to government and private business on how to use technology to enhance collaboration. And it was in the early .com days when it was very messy, as well as when it got very sophisticated. So I've seen it all from that point of view. But during that time working in industry, I was also beginning to explore my own inner world. I was interested in dreams and tarot and Jungian psychology, and I was doing a lot of inner work, and I was writing a book about living in the heart. And then in 2009, I began to have very strange, what was strange for me, psychic experiences through my dreams. As a dream analyst, I was like, wow, my dreams are becoming psychic and more accurate to real life. And then eventually, I went through some really unusual life circumstances, but as part of that, I began to experience what I call guidance or downloads, and what could be described as a Kundalini awakening from a spiritual perspective. And as I had it through from my guides, I began to reintegrate my higher self so that I could move to this new level of consciousness that I think we're seeing for all of humanity in the spiritual realms. So what I started to get through was that I was part of 2012. A lot of people think something didn't happen in 2012. It definitely happened for me. I was freaking out.
So that's what the calendar was about. It was waiting on you.
It's all about me.
Awesome.
No, little me. I was paying attention. And actually, my guides were taking me through the Mayan calendar. They were showing me how each step in the Mayan calendar represents the stage of creation, how creation was about to speed up, and how my psychic capacities were coming online to reflect what the new human would experience in the future. So I had a really deep initiation, and then eventually, as I got into 2012, I had through that I was going to be part of co-creating a quantum technology. And I didn't know what it was. I'd worked in technology for a long time, and I was kind of, I have no idea what this is. But I followed my intuition at that point. I had 3 businesses at the time, and I closed all of them down. I left my former home, and I put out a press release and set up a network saying I'm looking for co-creators who have a mission or a calling to develop a technology. And at that point, these 2 showed up, as well as around another 1,000 young people, really, a lot of young people. So I ran a network for about a year, and then eventually we got closer through that process, and we could see that the natural outcome of what was Earthstar Network, that's what it was called, was going to be this Noomap project, and the network continues to support us. So my interests, just briefly, are in kind of energetics. I also used to specialize in team dynamics. Chris mentioned MBTI. I'm an MBTI practitioner. So the part that I tend to play in Noomap is how it can help us co-create, but from the feminine principle, the inner principle. How do we design systems that support our inner journey, our inner creative expression, and allow it to be optimal, and also these systems to respond to our unique individuality. We're all unique. That tends to be where I get involved, but I also can integrate technology and business and communications and that kind of thing. So I dance around in Noomap. Doesn't tell you what it is. Bret might get onto that.
No, we're working up toward that. Brilliant. Thank you so much. That's great. And Bret, now you are from, and you're from the Netherlands.
I'm from New Jersey in the U.S.
Okay. My notes here. Maybe it's Netherlands, New Jersey. Is there a town called Netherlands?
That's the southern part we don't talk about too much.
Well, great. So, what is your part in this, and how were you drawn into this, or yeah, your story?
Well, I'm wondering if I'm not some kind of robot from the future that came out of Chris's work and Andrea's guidance.
Well, that's interesting.
Yeah. In 2011, I had a new round of awakening after spending many years isolated in my apartment after about 15 years struggling with a diagnosis of bipolar disorder, beginning when I was 19 with what was diagnosed as a psychotic episode, and of course many people would call that a spiritual emergency or just something much nicer than a psychotic episode. But so I spent, ages 19 to 30 really going up and down in the psychiatric ward many times, the medication thing against my will, pretty awful stuff. And the blessing of that time was I could do my own thing and learn what I wanted to and go back to school when I felt like it and study what I wanted to study. So I probably read a book a day for 8 years or 9 years. So my background is really to be a generalist and a mystic, and my profession has been self-inquiry. I realized a couple months ago when someone asked me, so that has been my life path of self-inquiry from the Who Am I school of Ramana was sort of my hero there. And Ken Wilber's work was a huge influence when I was about 23 or 24. I found his book in my trunk of my car because I bought it and left it there and found it there one day. So I felt a little better around age 30, and I went back to school for psychosocial rehabilitation. I thought I wanted to work with other people as well that were experiencing mental health issues. And then after that 2-year program was done, I fell into another depression again in like 2008 because I couldn't get any work during the sort of economic collapse. I just finished the program, but I couldn't find an entry-level job. So I had an inspiration to start writing a screenplay because film is a big passion of mine, and I was in film school when I had that first episode and never was able to return. So I wrote a screenplay from 2008 to 2011 about music, philanthropy, and film. And then I got depressed again, and I met a new round of friends in 2011 that got me out of this crappy state-supported apartment and $700 a month, and they got me out on the road and started on a new adventure for me. And in 2012, I met Andrea online, and I started learning about technology and the bridge between consciousness and technology and the inner work and a more integral place and working on what I call transforming perceived mental illness into a blessing. So that's what I've been doing the last 5 years myself before I can bring that to the world and try to be an inspiration for others. I realized I was actually still doing it for myself, and it was a present tense thing. So for Noomap, I am an intuitive networker, a resonance recruiter, so I find people for us that are in alignment with what we do. I like to write. I like to create memes. I love to be around people. I like to perform and talk, and I'm the ENFJ extroverted of the three here, so I'm the only one that can get on a phone call usually. This is a rare occurrence for the two introverts here to be with me on the call. So
well, thanks, guys.
I love doing all that, and I like the orange CEO energy uplifted to a new place, and I'm trying to bring spiritual philanthropy to the world, which is investing in consciousness with our whole self. That's my mission here with Noomap, and a big part of what I brought was the social operating part of spiritual philanthropy. And we've all ended up in Netherlands as a calling. We're here with amazing, beautiful people. I've learned to attract spiritual philanthropists everywhere around me. So these two were the first two to believe in me and my idea, and now we live in a building with 25 spiritual philanthropists who are gifting us space so we can all work together to do all of this.
Brilliant. Yeah, I went to a place like that in Amsterdam once. Is everybody hearing the echo? Okay, great. Yeah, which is pretty amazing. So I can relate to you guys talking about your so-called mental illness and your breakdown and all that and stuff. I totally went through the same thing, and it changed everything. And I had to get everything shattered and broken to stumble on to the path by the grace of the universe that I'm on now. And it's all about consciousness and raising it and using technology to do that. Who would have thunk, right? That I memean, for so long it seemed like technology was the big bugaboo, the big threat, and now it's like, weirdly enough, it's becoming the thing that can wake us up, and that's the most important thing that we have to do right now on the planet, because it's not just about us, right? So look, all right, the noosphere. Now I'm familiar with Teilhard de Chardin and his idea of the noosphere that he kind of prophesied long before the internet or any of this stuff was happening, that eventually, and correct me if I'm wrong, that human consciousness would begin to connect into a kind of a global consciousness that dealt with meaning and higher evolution and transformation. Is that kind of the story? And yeah. Okay, well, great. So what are you guys doing, and how are you fulfilling that? And I'll just turn it over to whoever wants to respond.
I'll turn it over to the walking, talking fractal here. This guy. I'm just going to turn the thing a little bit so you can get a nice shot of him talking about his research and the holonics and the global brain and whatnot.
Yeah, so like with Noomap, we have a piece of technology which is on its sixth version right now. And the technology itself is about to take a quantum leap into a new level of development, and we're actually changing the name to HOME, H-O-M-E, which stands for Holonomic, Holographic, Holistic Meta Environment. And I'll get into the details of that later if there's time, but we're writing a white paper on this right now, and we're going to be creating a prototype. But Noomap, as it currently is defined, is kind of like a fractal mind map, and it's made of holons, and a holon is a holon apart. So my background was systems theory and systems thinking, and what I came to realize was that basically a system is always part of a larger system, and it always contains subsystems. So actually a system is in itself holonomic or holonic. So when we start mapping information as holons, as we do in Noomap, it actually helps us to think in systems. So instead of taking a course in systems thinking and systems theory, and then just gaining the advantages of that way of thinking, and perceiving, you can use Noomap. And it's like as you start to map things with holons and start to communicate with holons and start to organize with holons and self-organize with holons, it starts to alter the way you think and perceive. So you think more holistically, and I believe this is to do with using a different part of the brain. So not just thinking in silos, thinking linearly, but thinking more non-linearly and using the right hemisphere as well. Using also space, size, color to communicate non-verbally.
So when you say silos, you're talking about just kind of disconnected.
Yeah, exactly.
Things.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's helping us get out of what Buckminster Fuller called separation thinking. And separation thinking results in separation perceiving and separation everything. Okay, because this is the essence of the noospheric understanding. Noosphere is an interesting word because what it's talking about is the noosphere points to it's like the global mind, the global brain, the sphere of human thought that envelops the planet. Now, it doesn't really matter what that is physiologically. I mean, we can pin down exactly what that is physiologically. You could talk about the activity of the human nervous systems, on an atomic level or a neurological level, or you could think of it from a subjective point of view, like it's everyone's experience of thinking. So there's a subjective and an objective way of looking at what the noosphere is. But as soon as I use the word noosphere, I'm actually activating a kind of meta-level thinking, a meta-level cognition, where I'm talking about talking and thinking about thinking. And it's not long before I realize that actually my mind is not separate to the mind of every other human being. And in fact, it's almost as though my mind is part of the mind of the earth. My body is part of the earth. And I am the earth talking to the earth right now. We're thinking and we're co-creating reality together. And there's this, we start to see how powerful our thoughts and our beliefs are, and our feelings, and how our feelings guide us in the selection of our thoughts and beliefs, and how our thoughts and beliefs and feelings create everything else, like the state of the atmosphere, the state of the hydrosphere, which is of the oceans, the technosphere, which is all of the artificial things we've created. And you can see the impact human beings are having on this planet. It's massive, and it's specifically the impact of human thought, really, that is at the root of that. So noosphere is the reason we need that concept noosphere is because it helps us become aware of that. And there's a whole thing about understanding the relationship between our thoughts and our experience. I mean, that's a big topic, and like I think it's really essential to this paradigm shift that's happening, is to understand the relationship between our thoughts, beliefs, and perceptions.
Absolutely. Or experience. Watts said, "We didn't come into the world; we came out of the world." So yeah. We're the Earth trying to get our shit together, basically, so that we can have move from this time of precarious time of separate, ignorant thinking into a time of beauty and glorious creativity and love and compassion and brilliance, and what you guys are working on. Oh, well, we're all working on it.
So one quick thing I was going to say with Noomap is what it really is when you start thinking and using holons to map information. It's a new way of thinking about information. It's when you realize that the information out there is a kind of reflection of our nervous systems, of the individual and collective activity within our bodies, in our nervous systems, information, data that we see in the world in any form, on a car number plate, on the wall, writing on the wall, digital, analog, it doesn't matter. It's a reflection of us. And when you look at the structure of the brain, the neocortex, you see fractals, you see pyramidal cells in these fractal structures. So when you're mapping information as holons, and linking information together as holons, you're using something that's more biomimetic, that's a similar structure to the brain. So you have this resonant pattern, and I mean, the whole body is holonomic. The whole body is fractal. So why shouldn't we store information in that way? And I mean, when you look at our architecture and the way a computer works, and we have files and folders, and everything is boxes and lines, boxes and lines, boxes and lines, rectangles, and we have all this patriarchy, and it's like, where's the spirals and the curves? And I mean, nature doesn't use the same geometry that we've been used to. It uses much more diverse, fractal kinds of geometry, and so Noomap's about going back to a more ergonomic, biomimetic way of thinking about and using information, and this is essentially like, I mean, if you apply this to the whole internet, then you end up, or the web, you end up with a new web, a new internet that is more like a global brain, and that's what home is going to be, precisely because Noomap right now is hosted on a server, and we need to change the kind of way we're actually implementing it as well, which is what we're doing now. We're going to have a distributed app. But anyway,
could you get me like an example, like a concrete example? Say I was like, I heard of this really cool guy, Ken Wilber, writes these amazing books, and I go on to this version of the noosphere that you're creating, and I put that information in, and then what happens?
Well, I mean, to me, the noosphere is our actual thoughts and the actual biological phenomena, or energetic phenomena. That what we're co-creating with Noomap is a digital reflection of the noosphere that is more obviously a reflection of the noosphere because of its structure. So the internet is a very primitive, it's a very primitive digital nervous system. It's acting as a kind of extension of our nervous system, and it reflects our collective consciousness to a degree. But I mean, you can see how linear it is because we're in line land right now. We're in linear two-dimensional consciousness or three-dimensional. So, so with Noomap, the way you would do it is, say, instead of accessing a website, you'd access a holon, and then every single bit of information, say the pages, would also be holons, and each paragraph would be they would all be holons, and you can break it down arbitrarily because it's a fractal. So in a fractal, you can store an arbitrary amount of information in a finite space, but you don't, in practice, use that. And one of the things about Noomap is you can take any holon and you can link it, and it can be in many places at once. So you could take, say, one article or one part of an article, or a reference to a person or whatever, and you could take that and you can put it in many other places at once, and it's like a quantum superposition. It's something that's in more than one place at once. So, and in the background, it's like a graph. It's like a graph of nodes and links, and it's also related to this idea of semantic web. But in practice, everything is a holon, basically, like every object. So, your timeline on Facebook would be a holon that contains a load of posts, and then the comments would be holons, and in Noomap that's exactly what you have. Everything is a holon, images, videos.
So every bit is everywhere and contains everything, as in something like a hologram. Is that?
Yeah, hologram is a slightly different concept. Yeah, but it's related.
Okay, sorry, I didn't mean to go off on that one. Well, that's amazing. Okay. All right, Andrea, you wanna riff off that?
I was in case you want to. I would like you to, when you first saw Noomap, because she came from technology and understanding it, Maybe you could share a little bit about the database and the siloing and what you saw in Noomap. Yeah, because it's easy for people to also understand.
Yeah. So yeah, when I first saw Noomap, John, I had my guidance as I shared, so I knew I was expecting to see something that was a special technology. But when I actually met Chris, Noomap was a black screen with circles on, and I was like, well, this looks interesting, but I don't really, know what it's going to actually allow us to do. But what I could certainly see from it, having worked in technology for a long time, is that what often happens behind the scenes is we're using databases to interact with each other. So every website behind it, many websites have databases powering them, and people are controlling those databases. They decide what data we put in. So even if you put in Facebook to do a status update, that is a cell in a database, and Facebook has decided they will give you space to provide this update. When I saw Noomap, I was kind of like, wow, every little cell in here, the user can decide what data they're going to put together. And so what I was seeing is the ability for the user to create their own data structures and then allow that data to speak to somebody else's data structure. Now, what does that mean for us? Like the Joe blogs on the street. Like, how does that change my life? Well, it just kind of means that we are beginning to dictate what we want to share in terms of a society, what data we want to put together and how we want to see those relationships form. And it takes out the middleman saying, we decide how all you guys interact. So I was a communication student. When I was a student studying communication, I was also studying feminism, and the feminists were saying, wow, all our civil structures have been built in this kind of top-down fashion, and the feminine is more wild. The feminine wants to come from the ground up and acknowledge the subjective. And in communication, we were seeing the same patterns of these top-down communication systems. A broadcast system is a top-down system. It's somebody able to control the airwaves and say, this is how we think, how you ought to think. And what we were exploring in communication is if we could have a bottom-up communication system, we would start to see people coming into control of their own lives. So this is probably more complex than Bret anticipated, but Noomap is exactly that. It's starting to put us, the individuals, back in control of what they share, but also how we interact as a society. And that brings us into what I'm passionate about in Noomap, which is building distributed structures for working together that honour the self. I think I'll take a pause there because it's complex, and I think it's nice to get into some of the user journey side of it so people can relate to this at a less abstract level. But certainly, I saw in Noomap the ability I'd never seen, to put it simply, the ability to create these mini data objects and allow people to dictate how they interact. I hadn't seen that before in technology.
It's kind of not determining, with Facebook, if you think of Noomap as a social network, it's kind of, you can think of it as a social network of some form, but rather than predetermining the sort of forms that you fill in and the structure of the page, it allows users to create that themselves. So it's on a different kind of level, and it's basically the inherent structure in Noomap is almost like just mirroring the way the brain works. So it leaves a lot of space for individual self-expression, and it can be customized to do pretty much anything. So initially I started out with looking at how can we unify all of these emergent grassroots socioeconomic things like eBay and lift sharing and free cycle, and I thought if we could unite all of those systems into a meta system, we'd have an alternative to the monetary system and the monetary market capitalist thing that is holding us back seemingly. That was where I started with it, but as I met people and we started co-creating, it evolved, and then it became something that facilitated manifestation. So we started mapping desires, skills, intentions, resources, these 7 frequencies of co-creation that are primarily involved with the creation of reality itself. So we were doing that to facilitate creation, co-creation, resource sharing, etc. But that's just one application, you see. So it's been a very difficult challenge to explain Noomap to people because it's so malleable and so diverse in its function and its applications, because all you need to do is change what we call the ontology, change the language or the things you're mapping, add little pieces of code, and it's a whole new thing. So we're not sort of, it's not like Facebook where there is only sort of one linguistic, neurological, semantic framework that you can play in. It's more like it's all possibilities. And with Home, we're really taking that a step further, because we're going to have many different interfaces and let the users program code, and it's really more like a operating system for a global computer. We're developing it on Ethereum, which is the world's first global decentralized computer, and also IPFS, Interplanetary File System, which is a distributed storage network. I get into
a plug for IPFS.
Yeah. But everything like Tan said is you know, it really is. It is like a kind of like a meta database, really. Like it's like a database of databases, and it's a neurologically inspired database.
Here's the good news. Here's the good news to the audience. It worked. It works. We've been using it for 2 years as our own tool.
Yeah.
And like, for example, the very popular internet tool called Slack. They developed that because they needed something to use themselves, and they were able to like self-fund that because they had prior experience and funds, and now they've got like 200 million in the bank they don't know what to do with. So we're doing the same thing. We're building something that we need because we have this high processing speed, and we want to be in the 7 S's of co-creation that Barbara Marx Hubbard talks about. That is our values, like synergy and synteny. Spontaneity, synchronicity, self-creativity, supersex, and syntropy. These are the operating values of our community, of our movement, and it works. I've been mapping my visions and intentions, not only in Noomap, the prototype alpha software, but in our community. We started talking like that and prototyping. What would it be like if we always focus on vision, intention, passion, skills, resources, synteny, and synergy? What would it be like? And here we are, 3 years later in this building with amazing people, with an alpha software that only Chris has coded on the zeros and ones, by the way.
Well, apart from
Pat. Our friend Pat gave a little help. We had our friend Duke in that video who did a little bit of the UI, but other than that, it's been Chris. And we do the other things. So, we're living our dream together with other people. We're manifesting quicker and with more accuracy, and our intuition is, I would say, being honed, and the healing work also by sharing intentions and passions and the gift consciousness. What are the gifts we all have? And we focus on these things, and it's working. So that's, for me, the greatest news to share. Like, the system itself seems to be working as an actual thoughtware.
I mean, yeah. Perhaps you could say about what's going on here as well.
That's exactly what I was going to do. Just to ground it a bit, John. So, what we've been seeing with Holons, this is a huge part of our adventure together, is that we've got this technological possibility, but when you have new technologies, new social possibilities arise. And I spoke a little bit about them at the abstract level, but certainly what we were seeing is that if we can just allow people to map their true situation, their true selves, and then we create synergies between those maps, that people can self-organize based on what is true for them, what is exciting for them. So rather than this top-down approach, say in the workplace, somebody says, I want to build a car company, I'll identify all my staff for this and I'll tell you what to do. What Noomap does is says, it works from the inside out. It says, what is your passion? What is your purpose?
Wow.
And what this is getting at is the integration with the fifth dimensional human. It's bringing down, saying, what is your true self, working with that higher operating system, allowing that to be expressed, and then it creates synergies and brings people into groups for co-creation. So this has been our vision, and every time we talk to people, they say, it's too big, how do we even understand this? So we landed here at Synergy Hub. We have a community of hundreds of people who are working in a voluntary capacity. They're being encouraged to pursue their passion. We have people who live here as residents who want to heal, and they're saying, we need the technology to bring all these synergies together. Somebody over here has a free resource. somebody here who has a need, somebody over here has a skill, somebody over here needs a skill. How can we make this interoperate efficiently? And we're going, well, Noomap's been built for this. So I think in the next couple of weeks to a month, we'll start to see a prototyping in this community of our vision of synergistic co-creation using Noomap. So it's a bit like Bret said, it's moving out of Slack, Trello, all these project management tools into a much more natural way of creating together that gets us out of more linear ways of doing things.
Yeah, it's
co-creating with the planet. Yay.
Yeah, it's like internet with the soul, both individual and collective, which is really cool when you think about it. And that is a quantum leap. And I hope you allow us, here at iAwake to, spread the word and get this out in our communities and, in the integral world and our little expanding fishbowl. So that's amazing. Now, did you want to share a screen share of the Noomap to kind of give us a visual representation of this?
Yeah, I'm going to show something real quick. It's sort of like tip of the iceberg. I don't want to overwhelm and do something, so I'm just going to try to show something real quick. So I'll get my screen share up and we'll give it a shot. The bandwidth could be an issue, so let's just see what happens.
Okay.
Did you see something come up?
Yeah, we have a holon or a circle with little circles with smaller circles. There we go.
Yeah. Okay, so what I'm looking at here is a holon that I mapped called my co-creation gifts. And within it, I've mapped a bunch of different things. So this is, within here, a bunch of passions that I have. I've clicked in. I've got a little bit of a ghost image. Let me just fix here. So these are all different passions I've mapped. So one of the things you can see here is I'm passionate about free energy. And if I click the Synergize button, I've got to, how do I get rid of that? I'm not really that technical.
Right, the Windows UI is kind of interfering.
The Windows, yeah. Let's see if we, how do we get that out? Maybe we have to go out of full screen.
Unfortunately, the Google Hangout, wait, move the Google Hangouts thing. Right, now we can do it, I think.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, so there you go. So in Noomap, it's not just a straight search engine optimization. It's more like synergy engine optimization. So for instance, I had chosen this passion for free energy, and then I hit the Synergize button, and now I've got these 4 things here. Other people had passions. Nico had a passion for free energy. We have free education came up, yoga, dance, free movement. The system's not set yet to be really specific, and it's got only limited data, but you'll see in the future, not only passions that would synergize with a passion for free energy, but people who had intentions and resources and skills to do that. What's really great about Noomap right here is that you can link any specific holon that someone else has shared right in here, and you can also create a new holon. So check this out. I'm going to create something called the Synergy Space holon. It just popped up in here. There you go. And this is something we call Synergy Space. You join the space. There you go. You joined the Synergy Space. Okay. Oh, I don't know. It doesn't want to work. And then you would link.
Yeah, it's just slow.
Oh, it's slow because of the bandwidth. Let's see.
A lot of things happen.
Yeah.
This computer's a bit slow.
Yeah, my computer's slow. So basically, I'm gonna. It's acting a little slow, so I'm just gonna stop the screen share.
Whoa!
Whoa! We've got some kind of infinite fractal loop happening on my Google share.
Wow! I just became infinite. Thanks, you guys.
That's what we do here, John.
Yeah.
I mean, you can actually create fractal loops in Noomap by linking a holon inside itself as well. Which is
yeah. So what I was trying to show is that you have really quick access and agile access. So like you find someone who has a similar passion, you create a space that's like Kickstarter in a way, but beyond just giving money. And within minutes, you can link all these different intentions and skills and visions. Then invite someone, on Facebook, say, here, check out this holon. And you have what we would call flash synergy instead of a flash mob. And within weeks, and you can imagine if there was 100 million people on Noomap, we would literally be basically manifesting things very quickly because it would be a situation of if the people who offer the things they've offered all continue doing what they said they would do, there you go. It's beyond project management. It's, you know, synergistic co-creation.
It's crowd creation.
Yeah.
So like you have crowdfunding right now. Imagine the next level of crowdfunding is crowd creation. So it's decentralized, self-organized manifestation of the realities we desire, and in us, that is what we define as co-creation, basically. But what Bret just described is actually only one application of Noomap. When you set the ontology, the holon types, to passion, desire, vision, etc., it's like a game, if you like, a game on Noomap. But it can be programmed to like facilitate any kind of communication or interaction, and
I call it a particle accelerator of consciousness.
Particle accelerator of consciousness, and co-creation, being the new paradigm as we see it, is facilitated through Noomap on a global level. And we're passionate about using Noomap to facilitate co-creation, basically, and that's the main application as far as we're concerned, because it's the one thing we see that we need. To get out of the matrix, we need a new matrix, and we have to co-create that. And it has mental components, emotional components, and technological components, like new ways of generating energy, you know, clean, abundant, distributed energy, like solar, wind, and zero-point energy, etc., and the more like esoteric forms that are being suppressed. So we want to map all of that. We want to map what is needed to manifest that. We want to map the people who want to create it, what resources they need, and we want to create synergy, facilitate synergy. So that's what Bret's talking about. We want to empower self-organization so that humanity can get itself out of the mess it's in. We don't need anyone to come and save us. We don't need to rely on government or any authorities of any kind. We can literally spontaneously co-create and self-organize a new matrix. And that's exactly what we're pioneering and doing right here in Rotterdam. And Synergy Hub is part of an idea that we're calling Synergy Hub Network, which is a physical network of hubs where you can not just come and visit, but you can live in there. We're literally co-creating the foundation for a new lifestyle, a new reality, a new paradigm, and we're living it and we're being it. And we're creating something that will scale. And this includes having a basic income. It includes having free access to everything co-created in these Synergy Hubs. And when things are monetized, while we're still in a monetary system, while people still use money, the profit will be redistributed intelligently and shared. Yeah. So sharing, and then we also have unconditional sharing. So we've got free food being shared all the time, every day. We're communally cooking, and we're sharing food unconditionally with the community. We have a free shop downstairs where people are exchanging resources on a free basis. So we have this unconditional sharing, and that's linked to unity, the community unity. Meesteren are the community who basically manifested this amazing building we're in, and several other buildings. We're working in 2 other buildings in Rotterdam as well. But basically, this idea of Synergy Hub didn't emerge until Meesteren, United Earth, and Noomap met at the end of last year. And when these 3 communities came together, we immediately sort of recognized the value of working as one, and it didn't really feel to any of us that we were in these separate organizations or silos. We just felt immediately like we were one team. And United Earth is one of the names we've been using to describe ourselves, but it's not an organization. We are literally the Earth uniting. We see ourselves as just people who are uniting and co-creating, doing our best to create something new that can help everyone, that we're excited about, that we're passionate about as well. So United Earth really, to us, is a descriptive term. We are the United Earth, and anyone who's co-creating and collaborating with us is the United Earth. But we're not too attached to names and symbols and logos, but it's really the synergy of our skills and our talents and our resources that is enabling what's happening right now. But I guess we had to do a lot of the inner work and the inner stuff to get to the point where we can see the possibilities that are there. And we just want to scale up what we're doing. We just want to scale it up and make it really accessible to everyone, so they can just cross the line, out of capitalism, out of the current consumer control, fear-based, business-as-usual paradigm into a totally new paradigm of co-creation. And people will still have money, they will have more freedom and more money, in fact. And all of this is possible just because we're sharing, and we're inspiring each other, and we're empowering each other. So it's going to go viral, and we're looking to create a new lifestyle that goes viral, basically. And it's
yeah, and it seems you, as in all things human, you have to account for the different developmental levels that are currently running around the planet. People. I mean, Brexit. That's just one thing. In times of stress, fear increases, and we can say, these guys are a bunch of, nationalistic dummies. But we have to, these guys are under stress. They're scared. They think they're going to lose their identity. There's all these things going on. So we really have to account and language things and make. I'm just suggesting this, that we have entry levels where people can go and they can enter it, and we're not expecting everybody to be at Ken Wilber's level, or the second, third tier development. People are going to come in wherever they're at, where all our human family is. We all start at square one, and hopefully something like this will be something invitational and non-threatening, that we can allow people to come in, and we can make that essential evolution of our species to much more global-minded, much more united, much less greed and fear and all these things that are going on. And become an evolutionary tool for individuals. So instead of waiting till, like in my case, around 50 years old to start getting this kind of integral consciousness, it'll be like 13, 14, will be the norm, and, move on from there. So, yeah.
I'm really glad you said that, John, because something that is a real core principle of the hub here is we use, the spiral, the integral spiral, to look at how we can create a social operating system that acknowledges diversity. So what we're playing in here is all levels of the spiral. We're passionate about being integral. So even we call ourselves the vapor floor. We use this analogy of ice, water, and vapor, and we're kind of up there in the ethers. But what we're looking at is how do we interface with different realities, and part of what we're doing here is the prototyping of the social operating system, which then can be mirrored in the tech. So we have a lot of conversations here about language. I mean, you're speaking right now to more, we're having a conversation about spiritual technology, so we've been in that space, but there are other people here working on how do you interface with just the ordinary residents on floor 2. They're not going to speak our language at all, and we're looking at building like language systems that can speak to any, and then allowing people that are kind of resonant with that area to then be the spokesperson for what we would call that holon. So it is important, and part of the I'd say the real work we've been doing here is that how to work with diversity, different decision-making systems, different ways of seeing, different economic systems. We're playing with all of them. That's the beauty of the holon. They can all thrive together.
Brilliant. So let's see. Okay, so we have a live audience that's participating. Is that correct, Pam? Pam, are you out there?
Yes, that's correct.
All right, you're a talking ball. Hi, honey, you look different. So do we have some people lined up to ask questions? And I have a few questions too, but I'll defer to the rest of the field here.
Yeah, we've got a question from Tom, who says, how does a newcomer to Noomaps become a part of Noomaps to learn and discover and explore Noomaps?
I'll take that first. Yeah, you guys can. Right now, we have what we would call an alpha software out there. There's a tutorial online, which we can get the links for and all that, so people can give it a shot to get on there and message me on there and just start learning the basics from the videos and then playing around themselves. So to reaffirm, we have an alpha software. And we've done this all on our own with very little funding or a big team. So it's at Alpha Software.
It's near beta level, but
near beta, but we're still working on getting the larger team and whatnot. I mean, this is a traditional project that would have gotten 10, 20, whatever, $30 million and have a team of 30 people. So they can play that way. It's great to get to know us. I'm using Facebook right now. You can go on Noomap on Facebook. And just start interacting, getting to know us. And the Synergy Hub here in Rotterdam is a place you could eventually come and visit and meet people personally. I mean, that's the best way to just make contact with all of us. You know, the Facebook page, try out the software yourselves, and come out here in person. That's really the best way to entry level. And we're a small team now, so anyone listening who wants to give that a shot, you're going to be talking to me probably. So it'd be great to meet anyone.
And if there's somebody listening, you know, or watches this recording, and you're going, well, you know, I've got about $1 billion festering in the bank, and I don't know if I need another private jet. So, yeah. So why don't I give these guys some oxygen and some energy to expand this and grow this more quickly? And you know, one of the most heartbreaking thing is when you have this beautiful vision, you know, and you run into this glass wall, you can't get beyond that because you don't have the finances or the support to do that. So I just want to put a plug in for you guys that if anybody's listening to this and you feel called, it's like, hey, come on, show up. You know, money is just, you know, it's done good for a goddamn thing, and let's just put to use helping people and making the world more beautiful and wise and livable for ourselves and for the generations and all the sentient beings that come after us on this planet. So I think this is be a really, you know, an acupressure point in the collective consciousness where you can press and change the whole pattern in a really, really good way. So anyway, I just want to put that out. Thank
you, John, man. Speaking of acupressure trim tabs, in honor of Bucky Fuller, we're going to have a huge event here in all of October, which is a trim tab festival of 100 co-creators in person. So 2 weeks of a trim tab festival and 2 weeks of a whole systems hackathon. We're going to be announcing things like a book on reimagining philanthropy, a Global Freedom Fest 2 years from now, the open synergy source license for Noomap so we can get more people working in unison on the project, and the theme of occupying the noosphere all together for the month of October. And we're going to try to at least raise funds to buy this building to help our friends here who have been gifting us all this time and want to make this happen here in Rotterdam, a.k.a. Compassion Valley instead of Silicon Valley. So that's what we're up to, and I can't say enough of thank you for putting that message out, because we actually believe we deserve that, and the planet deserves that type of investment. And we can give you a return on your intention, and a return on imagination is what we're about. If people want to see a more connected world, a gift world, and sharing, and like just good people doing the best they can, we can provide a return on intention. So thank you for offering that out there, because we're going to keep going anyway. We're going to keep going. So. We don't need it, but thank you.
Yeah, so there's going to be contact information here, so people can contact you and and ask questions and say, hey, yeah, I'm in. Let's do this thing.
We've really been changing our relationship to money, and right now, like, we're basically living almost moneyless. And I have about 50 euros on me, no bank account, and my security and my sense of self-worth doesn't come from money anymore. And there was a lot of fear that we all went through to get to this point. And but we also have let go of our resistance to money and the way it's being used. We don't think it's evil or bad or wrong, and we want to use money to empower this new reality and this new lifestyle. And we do need it right now. It would help.
Yeah.
It would help us, and it would speed things up more than anything, because we are, like Bret said, we are going to do this. We are doing it right now. We have enough space in this building for volunteers to come here and co-create Noomap with us. But to get decent computers, to get to get more people on board who need an income, because not everyone is ready to jump out of the current paradigm, and it's quite a shift to live in this way that we're living in. It takes a lot of work to get your mind in the right space. But basically the money would be very helpful. So if there is a philanthropist out there, that would be great if they could come and co-create with us and come and visit. And Bret mentioned October. That's an ideal time for things to really take a leap forwards, I think, as well. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And in integral terms, we talk about money being oxygen. It's not what we're worshiping, but it's absolutely essential. Nothing else goes without it. And I can relate to going through the relationship with money. It's like I joked for years that St. Francis of Assisi was my financial advisor, you know. And I lived my life like that until finally it's like, okay, I've got to come into a new relationship with it. I like the idea of oxygen, and I would also say, you know, let these people here, whoever this listening to this, let them be them. You know, don't get in, you know, your typical VC mentality. If I want a big percentage of this and I want to control it and everything, just give from love. Just give because the planet needs it, and that's what you have all that. You know, I mean, how many shoes do you need? How many houses? How many planes? How many computers? Blah, blah, blah. I mean, you know, yeah, we need a certain amount of just abundance for everyone, right? But after that, it's all gravy, you know. The only good is to get it out there and transform the world in a beautiful way. So, anyway, I hope somebody's listening.
And John, I just wanted to say that people can contribute, you know, the other gifts, their networks, you know, get us an interview or connect us with someone or connect us to musicians that can come play here. You know, and not everyone has money, but people have connections and family. That's the beauty of spiritual philanthropy. There's time, there's attention, there's skills, there's experiences. Like, we would love to have, like, I don't know, Radiohead and Pearl Jam come here and play on the roof of the Synergy Hub during October. So, like, I know some people know people that would actually resonate with that, and then we can just sell tickets to raise money or something. So there's a million ways for people to help and be a spiritual philanthropist.
Yeah, and you know, one of the main things that's come out of this whole experiment with spiritual technologies, tech talks and all that, has been that my main takeaway, or one of the main takeaways, has been that collaboration is the new competitive edge. In other words, we're not trying to screw each other and win the game or something like that, but we're trying to, you know, work together to get this job done. And we all have these little pieces of it. And we started talking to all these brilliant people all over the world. It's just like, oh wow, we're not alone. It's not just a little eye awake on our little eye awake island, you know, trying to do this thing and transform brains in a good way and consciousness. It's like we're part of this huge eruption of consciousness all over the place, and we're starting to connect the dots.
That's at the heart of our new social operating system, John. We see it, the main shift is not from money to money less, but moving out of competition into synergy, collaboration, because the more that we do together, the more that we share, the more that we create, and we can redistribute those resources, and it creates this vortex of infinite abundance. So at the heart of our social operating system is synergy, which is why this is called Synergy Hub, which is, the whole is greater than the parts. What I can do more with you than I could do alone, and what gets created is something that, like, cannot even be defined. So synergy is the DNA of Noomap and everything that we're doing here.
Our future selves will be way more abundant and wealthy in an integral sense than any of us right now, including the richest 0.1%, 0.001%. Wealth is not one-dimensional. We're realizing.
No.
It's not just about how much money or power or control you have over others. Wealth is a million different things, including how much love and joy you experience on a day-to-day basis. And do you feel like your life has meaning and purpose? You know, are you in a healthy, nourishing, wholesome environment? You know, it goes on and on and on. But when Tan says about creating a system that leads to infinite abundance, or we could call it superabundance, that, you know, she says it casually, but it's a very real possibility. We can co-create this in like less than a decade. Like, I mean, I was working on a 10-year timescale when I dropped out in 2011. I was thinking, I need to do something in 5 years that will be, you know, playing it safe, because you look at all the curves, they're all going exponential, right? And people may not acknowledge that, but we don't have like 30 years to mess around. Or 50 years, we have like 10 years. So we really can do this in a very short space of time, because in a very short space of time we can change our minds, change our beliefs, and change the technology and the way we interact. Like Ethereum, for example, we could all just start using Ethereum and bypass government entirely and pay all of the service providers for all the different sectors directly. So that, you know, that's a huge thing we could do. But it's this idea of infinite abundance, superabundance, is very real, and it's hard for us to imagine right now what that is like, what our future selves will experience, because it's like, if once everyone shares everything and is co-creating from their joy, they're not doing things to just meet their basic needs. Their basic needs are provided unconditionally. we've figured that out, and then everyone is just creating and doing what they like. So everyone can access everyone's gifts and co-creations, and it's like it's super abundance. It's not it's abundance beyond the level any of us can achieve right now by having loads of money. So that's why instead of Noomap being like, you know, the next Facebook in the sense that we're all going to become billionaires, we're not thinking like that. We're in a different paradigm, and we're thinking, how can we experience like super abundance all together? So there's more and more of us coming together, and we want to share our intellectual property. We want to share the money we would be making on this and hoarding for ourselves with everyone in a way that empowers everyone. So that's really what we're doing right now in this building. Yeah, it's not just win-lose or win-win. It's win-win-win with the planet, and or win-win-win-win-win, etc. Yeah, infinite winning. Yeah.
Like that thing that you did with my head. Infinite. Yeah. It's still kind of wow. Yeah, and nobody's rich until we're all rich. You know, nobody's saved until we're all saved. Nobody's enlightened until we're all enlightened. Nobody's free until we're all free. Nobody's full until we're all full. You know, and we just got to make that shift. And man, it's a really dramatic time. You know, it's like the old movies where, you know, the beautiful maiden is down on the rail and the train's coming, and you know, we got to get on our collective horses and, you know, save the beautiful maiden, which is us and the earth, right? And that's the thing. Hey, are there any other questions? That was one question. Thank you for whoever did that. But there's so much energy here that one question can spin off into a lot. Yeah. So Pam, anything else?
Surprisingly, no more questions. I mean, I have a zillion, but we are way past the hour, so we should probably wrap soon. Okay,
brilliant. Hey, you guys, so good connecting with you again. Let us know about, you know, your events, and we'll let our people, you know, in our communities know about it. And what a great excuse to come to, you know, the lovely country that is the Netherlands. I've never been to Rotterdam. It's always been other parts, Amsterdam and up north. So, but I've heard a lot of great things about Rotterdam. So, it sounds like a really good idea. And with the euro going down, you know. Thanks, England. No, anyway, so no, we'd have to come and hang out with you guys and see what you're doing. If you want to come, Utah and hang out in the wilderness here, we got plenty of room and plenty of wilderness. So. Anyway, hey you guys, brilliant. Thank you so much. Really, really great. Love you guys. All right.
You too. Thank you.
Thank you.